security thing. There are going to be some significant increases to the operating budget in fiscal year 20. So it'll just be putting the approved expenses in there and trying to find the revenue to match those.
And in fairness, we don't know exactly what the state's going to do. The state, I don't know if they recognize the problem or not, but they do know it's a problem. Meeting with the secretary, she certainly knows there's a problem, especially in the rural counties. So we don't know if there's going to be appropriation of more funds for these folks, or will it be reoccurring, or will it one-time, you know, if you look at the numbers, Patrick, it's not going to go down.
We certainly have put the ask in to DHHS and Secretary Cohen as well as Deputy Secretaries that there be some significant review of the impact of not just the caseload size, but the system that's supporting those caseworkers as well as the ongoing work to see if there's any possibility for increased budget.
We will be meeting with them on Friday. This will certainly be a topic of discussion.
Any further questions or discussion? It's imperative, Patrick. It's a shame in a way.
It is a shame. I agree.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I need a bathroom break. Had too much
All right.
coffee.
Let's take a
Thank you.
5-minute recess.
if we could add item number E, or 11E2, which, or 11, I guess it'll be 11E1, which would be convenience center improvements, transport equipment, and then 11E2 would be recycling processing center repair and improvements. I apologize.
Does anybody have any issue with that? Speak up.
I don't
Have
want to
Mr.
say I
Miller.
support it. It says doable.
Okay.
Well, and gentlemen, I apologize. On one of these, we literally opened the bids yesterday, and on the other, we knew about it, but we didn't know we were going to get the check until after the
All right.
agenda packets had gone out.
Let's do the interlocal agreement first.
So, I believe in your packets was a copy of an interlocal agreement between Macon and Clay County for Macon County to provide some landfill gas monitoring services to Clay County. I was approached some time ago from Clay in regards to our process, how we monitored, what equipment we used, as they were under the gun to start monitoring their closed landfill. And basically what it came down to is I made the offer to them to just have us do it for them. It's one sampling event per quarter, which matches our sampling event. They only have 7 wells. It's a few hours of work. Not a huge time commitment or anything that would conflict with our needs. And so basically the benefit to Clay County is they wouldn't have to buy this $15,000 meter. The benefit to us is through the 4 sampling events, we would bring in $1,000, which is the cost annually to keep our monitor in compliance with factory calibrations and servicings. So that's
$10 a year, Bill?
yes.
Yeah, D4 sampling.
How many hours are you expecting this to take from you guys?
Literally, it'll obviously the drive over there and back will probably take longer than the sampling, and driving from well to well will take longer than the sampling. So you're probably looking at 3 hours max.
It's about $80 an hour.
Can we get a motion to approve the interlocal agreement?
We'll make sure I pass out a resolution with a copy of the revised interlocal agreement. The agenda package had the first draft.
Okay.
Chris had asked me
So it's
to
different.
do
Okay.
a few little changes to it.
Okay.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Higgins.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Shields. All in favor?
How long is this good for?
Sorry, got one discussion question.
It's a 3-year that is automatically renewable. However, either party may, on notice to the other, terminate it.
So if you're seeing it's costing you too much money, you'll pull the plug?
Sure.
Or either
Oh yeah,
amend it,
of
one
course.
of the two.
Yeah, I mean, if they added a bunch of wells or added sampling events, I don't want to take the time to go into all the things that could go.
You have to do the paperwork, right?
Well, we will simply provide them with the results and analysis of the monitoring.
Make them.
What happens from there is between them and the state,
Gotcha.
and whatever consultant they use. We're limiting it just to the taking the sampling.
I think it's been a good neighbor.
And you do it quarterly,
Quarterly, yes, sir.
250 quarterly.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's take that vote again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Chris. Okay, let's move on to item E1, the
You know, I
convenience
think I
center
might have given y'all all.
improvements, transportation
Here,
equipment.
there you go.
Did you hand out all your copies?
I think I did. Okay, transport equipment, is that where we're at? As we've talked a great deal, we are in year 1 of what I hope will be a continuing multi-year process to renovate, update, better our convenience centers. We have slated 2 for this year. the funds to do these projects exist in the approved budget. And so step one is to bring in the equipment. As you may know, you may occasionally get a phone call. If we close a center, it's sort of a catastrophe in the nearby area. So we wanted to try to expedite as much as possible getting this equipment in, because I want the equipment to be sitting on the ground before we go out, not necessarily to bid, but before we go out to contract to get this work done, so that the centers, there's as little disruption as possible at the centers. What you'll see in the packet is four different bid items. The first is a stationary compactor. It's two compactors that will be utilized at the Carson Center once that redesign is complete. And then also item 2, which are the 8 recycling containers. Those will also be utilized at Carson. The Junaluska compactors, and if you guys want to see any of these, I've got the pamphlets and whatnot on these compactors. The Junaluska compactors will sort of serve two purposes. We will utilize them at a temporary site while we close Carson, and then once Carson's reopened, we will begin construction at Junaluska, and that's when these containers will be put, not permanently in place because they're self-contained and portable, but and then finally, item 4 is for a container for Junaluska. As well, y'all may not know, but we sort of let some things go on at Junaluska, or in Nantahala and Scaly, that we don't in Franklin, because of the remoteness and the distance to travel to the landfill. And one of those things is to accept white goods and metal. And the other is to accept scrap tires. At present, these kind of just get cast somewhere on the site. We do have a 40-yard container for scrap metal. But if you look at the last page, the last drawing is a container we want to put at Junaluska, mostly to containerize the scrap tires and keep the rainwater out of them, mitigate any issues with mosquitoes and whatnot. The other benefit to that site is, much like all the others I want to redesign, it will be a one-level site. Everything will be on, no more handrails, no more ramps, no more all this stuff. And just while we're going through them, we just want to get in compliance as much as possible. Having those tires just out on the ground is it's not illegal, because convenience centers currently aren't permitted, but this will be a better way. We will also eliminate the recycling trailer at centers that we redo, using the semi-vans as recycling containers. These will be accessed again from ground level from either side, much like you would see at Buck Creek or Holly Springs. So what you see, we had 3 respondents. Not everyone responded to all categories. I have highlighted the lowest bid and see no reason not to accept the lowest bid for these containers. And so I would just ask the board to approve this, what'd you call it, Lindsay? I want to say it right.
Were these advertised
Yes.
bids? Formal level?
Formal.
I think you'd need to award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, taking into consideration the
I knew somebody
time for
would back me
performance.
up on the proper line.
And then further authorize the county to proceed with securing a contract for these items, so approved in accordance with the specifications advertised, and authorize your county manager to execute the same.
Can we get a motion stating the same?
Did a good job. I make a motion. Supporting that.
Thank you.
Motion, get a second. Got a motion by Commissioner Higdon,
Second.
second by Commissioner Shields.
Just a couple of questions. What's your
Yeah.
time, I gave you my documents. What's your
Yeah.
timeline on Carson first?
Yes.
And Junaluska? What
Second.
timeline do you?
The recycling containers will be built to my specifications, so they're probably gonna take about 3 months. The compactors shouldn't take that long. So I would hope in April to complete the bidding or awarding process for the construction at these centers, with the anticipation of doing, completing Carson in the April to early May range, and then getting Junaluska wrapped up by the end of the fiscal year.
So you're gonna do that at Apple Tree, and the other, in Junaluska, the convenience center at the school exit, whatever that road's called there.
The school side?
Yeah, the
Um,
school side.
Just, well, again, I'm hoping as funding's available, and I want to continue this through all the centers, and my goal is to do a sort of a enclose, higher level, busier center, like Carson, Highlands Road, not really Otto, there's not much I can do down there, but get one of those, and then also get one of the remote centers each year with the school site, Scaly, and Holly Springs, sort of in some order.
But you're doing Junaluska first.
Yes. And part of that is, part of that really relates to the flooding we had there last year. We lost, I mean, we had to get rid of our building because it was growing mold, and so in part of doing the updating is to also take into account, because we're not going to have ramps and all taking up all this room and stuff. My goal is to sort of build a central island of use through the center. Also, part of my plan is to create a new exit out the back of the center so that we don't have to account for traffic in both directions. And that will allow us to kind of bring the usable area to high ground, and so if we do experience flooding, hopefully that will stay to the periphery where it doesn't impact us.
Does the county own that side, or is that part of
No,
that lease?
It's leased.
Part of the lease, the rec park lease?
Yes,
or-
sir.
And you have permission to do the improvements?
I have permission in theory to do the improvements, working on permission to do the new exit.
Good
Chris,
deal.
compared to Jackson County, by the way, we've got many people going to Jackson County to recycle their stuff. Jackson County just passed a $500 fee if they catch you from Macon County putting stuff into their dumpsters, and several Maconians have received that call. We did meet with Jackson County chairman of their board. So what, you see what they have, you put all the paper in one, it's just so easy.
Mhm.
So why can't we do that?
Well, we actually talked about this
All right,
once
before we get
before.
off key, let's take a
Yeah.
vote on this last, please, before
Yeah.
we start on the new
Well,
session.
this
I
has
was
everything
gonna
to do with
Can we
my
get a
vote.
motion?
The answer to the question has everything to do with my vote. Do we need
Does it?
this kind of container?
Let's
Well,
talk about it then.
let me say, relating it back to these containers, most specifically Junaluska. Adding compactor units to centers is a huge win for the county. They'll hold about 3 times the waste of an open top. Plus, you don't have the wind blown, et cetera. It looks better, et cetera, et cetera. I have never really considered putting compactor units at our remote centers because we only pull those centers once a week, and that has to do with, again, mosquitoes and bees and flies. Item 3 or 4, whichever one it was, 3. The compactors that I would put at Junaluska and the other remote centers are actually a dual chamber compactor. Just started seeing these a couple years ago. So they would still be pulled once a week, but because we don't need that much room, one side of that compactor would be used for waste, and the other side would be used for commingled recycling at our remote centers. Segue from that to your question, why don't we do that everywhere? Is simply a matter of cost versus reward. We earn 250 to 400